Hey there, we're Kurt and Kristen, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. With our deep expertise in political strategy and a passion for the politically conservative and faith-based market, we're here to guide you into tapping into this $5 trillion opportunity. Having worked on high-profile campaigns like Donald Trump's 2016 run, we're excited to share our data-driven insights and the 5 Ps process to help you authentically connect with this loyal and lucrative audience.
Join us as we explore real-world examples, reveal game-changing strategies, and provide you with the tools to accelerate your business growth in this powerful market. If you're ready to unlock the potential of the Liberty Spender audience, hit that subscribe button and let's embark on this journey together.
Welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We're Kurt and Kristen Ludart, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's elected 14 governors, 15 U.S. senators, 1 president, and over 100 members of Congress. Now, in addition to helping political candidates get elected, we're also helping your business get in touch with who we call Liberty Spenders. That's a group of about 40% of the country who are politically conservative or faith-motivated consumers who are looking for businesses who align with their values.
Today, we have a guest, and our guest today is Jeremy G. We've known Jeremy now, I don't know, has it been 10 years, 5 years? I'm not sure. It feels like a long time, Jeremy.
That's when you know it's good, when it's been a while and you're not sure.
Yeah, I think the last few years are like dog years.
Yeah.
Everybody's feeling older than. I think it's a 2-to-1 at least. So
yeah, we met Jeremy at Olympus Peak Media in Vegas. Mm-hmm. We came down to see Perry Belcher. A lot of you listen to the podcast will know who Perry Belcher is. And there was the guy who actually did all the work, Jeremy. Got a chance to meet him at Olympus Peak. He worked with a lot of brands people know, like Agora, Survival Life, Family Protection Association, American Gun Association. Now he's with a company called Patriot Brands that develops and markets products and services designed specifically for politically conservative and faith-based consumers. But even before that, Jeremy, you work with some of the biggest brands that the whole world knows, like Yamaha, Harley Davidson, Honda, NASCAR. You've worked with X Game Gold winners, also the military, the fire departments, the police. So you've been up to a lot of stuff, and I'm so excited to have you on here. But for those of us who are a little uninitiated, tell the world kind of what you're doing right now.
Well, currently I'm the president of Patriot Brands, and we're based in 2 different countries. We're based in Puerto Rico and in Texas as well. So we kind of split our time. I split my time there. Patriot Brands is big in digital marketing. It's all about finding an avatar, using every aspect of lead generation, re-engagement, email marketing, SMS marketing, social media, making sure that we find the avatar we're looking for and develop and contact them, stay in contact with them daily, and then be creative on keeping their interest. It's a constant battle with the Facebooks and the Googles and the YouTubes of the world.
They're so easy to work with. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they do not want to hear from us at all. But we have entire divisions of people that constantly battle this. But like I said, it's talking to the avatar, half of America basically, that and beating technology companies in ways that they don't, because they don't want us talking to our own people. So they will do anything, roadblocks, change algorithms, change limit servers. They will do everything they can. So it's taking marketing and using IT to keep talking to our base is pretty much what I do a lot of these days. A lot more than making products and doing stuff is a passion, something I've done for unfortunately decades at this point. But lately, the last 5 years, it's really been battling to stay talking to our own customers that we paid for.
Yeah, sounds like more of a battle than a marketing operation.
It's a constant battle. On Super Bowl Sunday, they changed Facebook and Instagram changed an algorithm, and we spend about $500,000 a month talking to people that are our clients. I mean, a lot of the times they're in our Facebook groups and they're in our They're targeted. We've pixeled them. We've already done all the due diligence in getting and keeping some of them, and even talking to our own customer base, we've already paid for. They keep an adventure, so
Well,
it's constant.
here's the good thing. For those of anyone listening thinking that sounds awful, right? Jeremy, that just means how people need you, right? Because you know what you're doing and you've got teams of people that are making this work for your customers. So that's just job security. That's just good business.
It is, absolutely. And talk about a passion, it is still half the country. No matter what, it's getting a message out. It's always an adventure, and they make it harder, but I like to think that we're a little bit smarter.
Well, and you must be selling a product attractive enough to your consumer. It's worth $500,000 a month in spend, and it's worth the time you're putting into it.
For sure, it absolutely is. I mean, and it's a business, and everybody. I would say if you're not passionate about what we are and on our avatar, it would be real easy to just go forget it. This is too difficult. But it's really once you kind of get used to it, know what you're doing. There's a formula to it. Re-engagement's a lot easier than initial targeting, but there's a lot of tips and tricks to do that as well. So there are ways to talk to them. They have gotten, and I will say, they have gotten far more fair in the last 3 months than they've been in the previous 5 years. So that aspect is nice to have. And even if we just wanted to target their side or target our side, I would say something's happened at Meta. I think when Congress is yelling at you for a long time, for going on 8 years straight now, that they've gone, okay, we'll make it more fair. So that there is that, I can say.
Well, after a while, you think the free market works in our favor too, because Meta needs customers, they need revenue.
They do.
And if they're putting up roadblocks and making it more difficult to market, they're making less money. And certainly at our end, we felt like sometime in 2021, Meta just decided, well, we don't want to be in this business of talking to politicians, and so we're going to make it super hard. But then they also raised their prices simultaneously. And so
that's always a joy.
What's up with this, right? Like, we can't make any money doing this. And we've recognized it to some extent as well. We're seeing some better behavior and better results coming through. So I hope they stick with it. But we've talked a lot in the last few years, certainly since we met in Las Vegas, and I really picked up right away that you were genuinely passionate about this, just like you just said. And so I thought you probably have a similar origin story to me, but how did you get involved in all of this? How did you get interested in it?
Yeah. Well, I know it is a cardinal sin to say, especially here in Puerto Rico where I am now, or where I call home now in Texas, that I'm originally from California in the Bay Area. And I will actually whisper that, and I live in Dripping Springs, Texas now, and I have an old truck that I brought from California. And
I was born there, so I can claim it or not claim it.
I tell nobody that I'm from there, because Texas, they might deport me. But it took, and until I was about my late 20s, I never imagined leaving California. But like I will say many times, and I'll repeat it probably a few times, it was far more sane then. I grew up going to San Francisco. It was awesome. I'm a San Francisco sports fan of all the teams. But I grew up in a very rural farm town. That actually is a thing in California for a lot of people that don't know. The Central Valley of California is all corn, cows, and almonds. And that's where I was from. And out, picked peaches and picked walnuts, which I hate. I still won't eat walnuts today because it's such an awful thing on the planet Earth. if you picked walnuts for every summer from 12 on, I don't think you'd eat them either. But I still do now. But I've always had a lot of trouble sleeping, and I'd go to bed every night listening to Larry King because he would definitely put me to sleep. but I didn't agree with a ton of stuff, and I just kind of started mentioning it to my stepfather at the time. Well, he's still my stepfather. And he would say, "Well, you got to listen to Rush Limbaugh." So I was like, "Who?" And Excellence in Broadcasting. A decade later, I was still listening, and that's through warehousing jobs I had, and I was a night janitor in college, and I all these different jobs I had. In my ears were always a Walkman playing Rush, and quite a bit of audiobooks. I still do love audiobooks. So, but I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
okay,
I know the story. I fell in love with Rush too in high school, which says a lot about how cool I was that I was the guy
yeah,
finding time to listen to Rush
yeah.
Limbaugh in the morning before school.
I remember that. Yeah.
He had a TV show when I was in high school for a
Uh-huh.
little bit, and so I would record it on those VHS tapes. For those of you who don't know, they're like giant cassette tapes. You
Yeah.
put them in your
If they don't know VHS, they're not going to know cassettes.
Yeah, that's true. and I would record it and then get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and watch the night before's Rush Limbaugh TV show. So
yeah, and it was great.
Like you, he brought me into this world.
He still lives on today through a lot of people. I mean, you guys are electing people that make a change and do things, and clearly that something that has influenced my life as much, a lot of my family. I mean, I only have one family member that's still in California on my stepfather's side, and my entire mother's side has left California altogether. That's a mass exodus. As everybody retired, everybody left. So that tells you something. That's a eye-opening thought. Texas and Nevada is where most of us are now, so that tells you something right there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you and millions others, right? I mean, what is it? The second most popular place for people to live who are from California is Texas.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
More Californians in Texas than there are in California.
All around Texas, and every time I go back to California, which I do for the holidays still, I go to San Jose, and I stopped in San Francisco to show my stepson the Palace of Fine Arts. We were there for an hour. Somebody broke into our rental car, stole all of our backpacks at Christmas. What a great experience! So yeah, so growing up, going there for many milestones. My 18th birthday, I went into the city. I went into the city for countless baseball games and football games and stuff growing up. And now it's a city we drove through this year, and I said I will not be stopping for no reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember the last few times I've gone to San Francisco. I find San Diego I was going to say, every time we run a campaign in California or work out a campaign, homelessness ends up being their number one issue. It doesn't matter what party you're from, where you stand on anything. It's a real challenge. And then they've made it so difficult to build there, too. So they're having a hard time really solving that problem. And I hope they do. It would be great for the world.
Yeah.
Somehow the town I grew up next to, there's a town, the big town was Turlock, which had 60,000 people in it. And somehow they've allowed so many homeless there that it has become I think it's the fifth, populace-wise, the fifth most populous city of homelessness in California somehow. A town of 60,000 people that now has tens of thousands of homeless people. How that happened, it's just ridiculous. One of the big other things though was always water rights, which I do love this. They've gotten more because it's so many farms. They've gotten so much water, and it was so dry, and there was so much drought in California for so long because it was a lot of it's a giant desert, as most people didn't know that they just built on.
Right.
Then of course water rights became a thing because nobody wants farmers to have any water to actually feed the people that were there. So now so for years they complained about that. Now because they've been getting so much rain the last 18 months, now it's of course global warming's fault. So, or climate change, or whatever they're calling it now. So it's, you win on all sides in California.
Yes.
Yeah. So growing up there, you were talking about how that probably informed a lot of your views on things, right? Because you saw how
Absolutely.
things were going, although you mentioned it was better then. And, but you also mentioned doing a lot of work in these warehouses. So is that did that trigger anything or lead you to do a lot of product development?
It did. My
Um,
family owned a company that was my my uncle was an immigrant from Australia, so it's but he came here and said, "What business am I going to go into?" And they had just voted on the helmet law in California, and so being very entrepreneurial, he goes, "Well, I'm going to make motorcycle helmets," knowing nothing about motorcycles or anything
oh,
about
wow.
motorcycle helmets or anything. He just knew that there would be need, and he read in the
Right.
article it said that with the pricing of motorcycle products and the need, and then just taking the percentages of Californians who rode motorcycles, that there was a backlog of something like 8 years that they would be short products. So he decided, I'm going to learn everything about it and then go make motorcycle helmets, and he did. Started making them in Mexico to start, and then so I'd work in those warehouses during the summertime, and he actually put his first location in Escondido in SoCal near San Diego,
Mhm.
and so I would do that for a long time. He's a very fiery little guy, and still is. And so I went to work for him after school, and very from warehouses to I many people won't remember what a fax machine is, but from every day to talking that way before the internet was around. And he said one day, "What's going to expand the product lines?" And I said, "Well, racing will. That's how a racing program expands everything in power sports." And and so that expanded into it. And so we signed a couple of riders, and we were dealing with China, of course, China and Taiwan and Vietnam. And we'd make a change, fax it over. They would say, "We have no idea what you're talking about." And then so we had and I so we got sick of trying that. So in the beginning, we would just go over, and I kind of had a knack of saying, "This product's good. This product's laughable. This product is too heavy." That kind of thing. So it just kind of started there in product development. And then as the racing program got bigger and bigger and technology started advancing, and then this little thing I think is catching on called the internet, took production times from a year down to months. Then they got
Mhm.
even faster. I remember still sending the first email from the compact laptop that I bought off of
Wow.
that I went into, not Best Buy, whatever computer company went out, one of them that went out of business, like many did.
Circuit City.
Yes, it was Circuit City, and so I went in there,
Yeah.
and so I found a niche in developing products, and that went into we started. I mean, I would say at the beginning we had this clunky 69 $79 helmet, something like that, and by the end, 10 years later, and we were mainly sold in California at the time. And then 10 years later, we were sold in 20 plus countries around the world. Our
Wow.
highest end model was about $1,000, and we had models, everything in between, all from just product development, different technologies, styling, models, and things like that. Yeah, so it
Wow.
just kind of found a
That's an
knack in it.
incredible.
Yeah, and then
Mhm.
Yeah.
that expanded. And while I was in racing, we worked with Yamaha and KTM. I worked with a lot of the big riders at the time. A lot of people know Travis Pastrana and Ricky Carmichael, and geez, there's Grant Langston and dozens of other races, if not hundreds. And that developed programs and working with all the manufacturers. I don't think Suzuki, Yamaha, KTM, um, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and then going into the road racing side. So really worked with a huge all the power sports companies kind of transitioned into that. And then that summer, we sold the company when I was about 30. We were on the
Wow.
and we were on the police and riot side as well. Different technologies in racing transfer well over to police and riot protection, and then into military protection. Um, Strangely, those contracts and programs aren't all that different than cops want to look cool just as much as everybody else does. So there's a lot that goes into that. And then
Yeah,
expanded it up.
and I'm thinking, okay, we go from racing to survival products because, of course, those two seem completely related.
Yeah, and that becomes more of a I had sold the company and had an agency for a while, and then Perry Belcher, who's kind of I know some of your people are going to know him. He's kind of a super icon in the digital marketing world. Very good at copywriter, has sold something like $500 million in products. And he's big in survival, worked with Digital Marketer and all these other really well-known traffic and conversion, content commerce, these big trade shows and stuff. And they needed some help they were selling so much product, but they couldn't source it. They couldn't find it fast enough. They were overpaying way too much for it. And they were mainly just using Facebook at the time. So they're doing a lot of
Yeah.
paid traffic, re-engaging them with email. And at the time, I didn't know what any of that stuff was. I just knew how to make products and work in China. And that kind of developed into I went to China a lot with Perry. And one of the ways that products always work best is understanding how they're going to be sold. My biggest hiccup when I'd work with clients in my agency would be they'd tell me I want this widget, and so I'd go make that widget, and I'd make it. It would have certain features to it, and it would be at the right price. But if it wasn't marketed well, which is still an ongoing battle I always have in different companies, then if the reason why you're selling that to your avatar, if that message isn't making it to the product, or why you made the widget that you're selling to the people, then you've already lost out of the gate.
Right.
You got to be marketing it properly. So I sat there with Perry, and I think we started with, when I first started there, we had, I want to say 7 to 10 people, probably doing a couple 100,000 a month. And then I think at our peak, we had well over 140 employees doing millions a month. And that was mainly through survival. So it definitely grew very well nicely there as well. So
Yeah, I remember touring the warehouse there in Vegas, and it was giant and shelves upon shelves of products that
yes.
you guys were moving. And that was and I don't know if Perry still has that operation, but it's pretty massive.
And he just wasn't interested in everything I built there and of course there are many other people that built there, but I was so target focused on our avatar, which anything that's built around our avatar is survival, religion, conservative politics. So it was an entire base of people that he didn't love talking to.
Yeah.
So
Well, we love everyone. We love Perry. We love
Perry,
super liberals. We love everybody.
Yeah.
we're working him. We'll have him over to our side before we know it.
But when it comes to he loves, it's funny because I'm always shocked until I hear him talk about certain subjects. Loves fishing, loves country music, hates guns, hates any Republican politicians that's ever existed. There's quite a few things. So, but the model works. So he was going to go in more of a AI and more of just a traditional marketing thing, and he still does full guru on that kind of thing. And I helped build the company I'm currently at through mastermind classes and stuff that Perry and myself put on. So I went to work for one of our competitors, which is where I am today. I'm the president of Patriot Brands, utilizing the exact same strategies and product development and traffic generations and affiliate and paid traffic that we used to do there. So.
Well, and it's a perfect segue because having talked to you and even just hearing you now, I know that you're passionate about this.
Yes.
I know you care about your clients and your customers a lot. I know you have a keen understanding of the audience. Like you said, you've been working in it for such a long time. So you know these Liberty spenders and what makes them tick. So I'm just curious, what do you think motivates them the most?
If you went back 10 years ago, I would say it was price. I would say it was price. They wanted something very cheap. They wanted, a lot of the time the Republican and conservative parties were far more siloed than they are now.
Sure.
It
Sure.
was, I used to break them up. I'd say that's a Dollar General Republican, or that's a this Republican, and I would say, and I would, just because it was so much easier to do that, because it was far easier to, because I pick products and would know that then. Now it's, I think that we support, and I'm going to throw myself in there. We far more support companies and initiatives that align with our values.
Mm.
Be it religion, be it I grew up a Budweiser drinker, and I don't necessarily. I consider myself I may be a strange Republican. Maybe it's because I grew up in the Bay Area, but I don't really care what you do with your money. I don't really care what a lot of the social topics are of the day, but I do have a problem when you weaponize that stuff. So if you're going
Mm.
to weaponize a brand that, I'm sorry, it was Coca-Cola, Budweiser, Wonder Bread. What brands do you put in there as America's most iconic brands? Budweiser's in there,
Right.
and I haven't had a Budweiser in 2 years at least. That's,
Mhm.
I think if you're going to weaponize something that is Americana, it's traditional, then you've directly taken aim at our customers and our avatar base. So, and they're going to show you, as they have with all the companies that pretty much have done that. I mean, Target and Budweiser, and I know there's been a litany of them that I'm forgetting right now, but our customer
Well, yeah, we
base,
talk about
yeah,
it. We talk about that a lot at the case
hmm,
study of Bud Light,
yeah,
and the massive marketing mistake they made, right? Where they lost 27 billion in market cap in a month,
hmm.
because of that one decision to partner with an influencer.
And what do they
So
consider when you think about with a consumable product like that, which I've worked with tons? The one thing you're counting on is re-engagement of your product. You want people to
that's right.
use it and use it and use it. And of course, I'll talk about email, and I'll talk about SMS, and I'll talk about social to keep re-engaging with your clients. But the reason that they had Clydesdales and Dalmatians and spent $3 million every commercial in the 80s and 90s that we all remember was re-engagement
Right.
with their product. And
Hmm.
they
Right.
lost sight of that. They wanted to be
So would
groundbreakers.
you argue now? Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
No,
Finish your
they
thought.
just wanted to be groundbreakers and completely forgot one of the key aspects of marketing, which is why I email and SMS, is re-engagement. I mean, brand
Yeah.
recognition is one thing, but re-engaging and having somebody reach out and grab your product off the shelf when it's surrounded by other products,
Right.
and it's more expensive,
Absolutely.
it's not the cheapest, but you had an American brand that was Americana. It was powerful. It was iconic. It showed you Clydesdale horses and cowboys and everything that your target demo still holds as endearing as possible in their hearts. And it goes, nah, we're good. And
Yeah.
and that's the weaponized aspect that I talk about, that I think about the most, is none of that meant anything to you. Um, just a small fragment of what they of one of their marketing people was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and
Yeah, they just didn't calculate the risk,
no.
right? Or any of that. And so I'm curious. So is your argument, you were talking about price.
Hmm.
So would you now, is your theory now, or
I think a
is
lot
it
of,
your thought, I guess,
so
that people are willing to pay more now,
they
in
are.
order to back brands that support their
I
values?
definitely think they are, because it's, if you look at a lot of the brands that are growing, and not just in the conservative space or anything, in all spaces, Tesla's popular. Everybody's got a new iPhone. I've got the latest MacBook. It's and stuff. If I had, so I don't think price is there anymore. If there were alternates in each of these sections, I would support, I would spend as much as I'm spending to support somebody that I appreciate, that aligned with me. In a lot of consumer areas, we just don't have it. And in the areas we do have it, I I sure don't get targeted very often for products that I would be interested in. It's clearly not being done enough.
Yeah.
Because
We agree with you there, clearly.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
I would far more
But it's
support those
interesting
products.
you mentioned the iPhone because I did see Elon Musk, was asking people, would you buy an X phone?
Yep, and I already
Where you
cannot.
own all your data and
He's talked about
privacy
it.
hawks
Yeah,
and all of that. So
he's talked about it in the past, and I will be one of the first people to give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw
Yeah.
that even when you look at some of these, some of the browsers have Apple dropped. I mean, I think I saw a 4% market share of people using Chrome this week. So there's been a lot of stuff as options develop and as people. I mean, a lot of the time you're battling your own internal marketing team because so many
Right.
companies are based in California. You're battling your own internal marketing team, trying to talk to the half of the consumer base and the consumer base that has far more money. How
Yeah.
people are listening to their marketing team and 20-year-olds tell you, no, let's target students with no extra income. Let's target a section of the population that still live with their parents, and not target those parents that are spending the money, that have the mortgage, that have that need to put solar on their house, that have 401ks, that have Roths, that have disposable income. You're targeting the wrong people. I wouldn't want to, if I was selling Rolexes, I wouldn't want to put them at flea markets and not high-end stores. I just don't understand the marketing.
Yeah. Well, I think for some reason, as marketers, we are paying keen attention to small segments, small but important.
Mm-hmm.
We might spend a lot of time saying we want to target a very specific ethnic audience. Maybe it's 7% of our population or 12%. In the meantime, if you take a look at, say, a faith-driven consumer
Mm-hmm.
or a politically conservative consumer, you're talking about 40% of the audience.
Absolutely.
And we're just pretending like that's not a decision-making paradigm for a lot of people, and we know it is.
They're just they have historically been a quieter, right?
Yes.
Subset. So, in terms of making your decisions, I think a lot of that has been shifting.
But the public in general marketing has said, okay, clearly we want a segmentation of who we're selling to. I mean, when Fox and versus the other whack jobs are saying Republicans are boycotting, how dare they? Because Republicans obviously care. When millions of people are saying, I'm not interested in Target, I'm not interested in Budweiser, I'm not interested in these other things, there's a clear market separation now. I mean, we've been hearing it for 5 years now. And the more woke things, that divide is going to happen further and further and further. So if you're Coca-Cola, you don't care. If you're selling a consumable product that's $1, who cares who you're selling to? Just sell as much as you can. Keep pushing brand recognition. But when you're selling a product that is an optional product that isn't necessarily the only thing sitting on the shelf, you need to differentiate yourself, and you need to be the appeal to people who are gonna come back to you for loyalty. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and what you're talking about is exactly, I mean, we did not prep you for that, but that's exactly what we've been talking to our clients about with this Liberty Spenders effort, is because, positioning, it's one of the P's in our 5P process. Mm-hmm. It's so important. And you just talked about it. There's market fit, which is, a lot of those things with those survival products you talked about, you're just, you already have a product that resonates, that speaks to the desires of that audience. And so that's one way. But differentiation and positioning yourself is really important because consumers have choices. And so if they're picking between, products A, B, and C that they feel like are similar, give them a story that taps into that they will pick that over and help them understand, well, what do you stand for that's unique or that's different? So I completely agree, especially like you said, when you can't rely on those insane marketing dollars that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we were talking about massive brands, although, again, Budweiser and Bud Light's a huge example of how it can impact them too. But especially for medium-sized companies, this can really move the needle for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
absolutely.
I look at those markets too, and if you're spending $1 and you're going after conservatives, and you're just kind of going after the general public, and you look at and you spend $1 or 50 cents of that goes to Republicans, and you're appealing towards that message, that conservative message, and in one of the 10 different ways you can talk to a conservative that are avatars that they truly care about. If you upset or piss off the other side, who cares? Because they're gonna just switch off. Whoever is, it's more fishing than whoever's got the shiniest lure they come back to, except for the super crazy fringe. And we have our own super crazy fringe on our side. You're not appealing to either side of those, so it doesn't matter if you piss either side of those off. It's going after the loyal people who are going to come back to you, and just re-engaging them, and however you can keep talking to them, it's the most important aspect of marketing.
Well, it's what sustains a brand.
Exactly.
You can have a flash and have some success quickly, but none of that works. You can't build a company around that. You have to have sustainable business and growth.
Absolutely.
And you have to have something passionate you're expressing to your consumer, a good, passionate story.
For sure.
And we were talking a little bit before we started about the Kneel for the Flag t-shirt that you guys sold a while back. And I thought that's a good story of a time when you're able to tap into something that was out in the news that really ignited the passion of your avatar. Absolutely.
It's one of the reasons. So we used to always focus on gadgets and things for fishing, or a flashlight, or a knife, or something self-defense purpose, or survival purpose. And then you can run into how many of the same widget can you buy? You've got you're going to run out of inventory. You're buying something out of China. You're shipping it there. And are you capturing? One of the things are you capturing the right lead? And the one thing that solves that is T-shirts and hats and stuff where you can print any slogan on it that you want, because you kind of sit there on blank inventory, which doesn't become liquidation inventory. It doesn't, because you're appealing. Now you're appealing to something they're truly passionate about. When Colin, and I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, and Colin Kaepernick went to the high school went to Turlock High School, the town I told you guys about, was the big town next to us, 3 miles away from us. So there was no bigger Colin Kaepernick fan than I was. He's from my hometown. He was a San Francisco 49er. There's no more of an athlete that you could hope that you could be a fan of than I was. I mean, I watched him go to high school. I watched him pitch in high school. I watched this. I mean, I knew this kid, and his family still works at Hillmar Cheese Factory, which I've got family members that work there. And and so I know that kid and his family pretty well. And so when he started kneeling and not standing up for the national anthem, first I was like, man, I'm trying any way I could to rationalize it in my head. But we started printing kneel for the flag, stand for the kneel for the cross, stand for the flag shirts. And I think and we just kind of threw them out there on Facebook, thinking this might be good for some leads. And I'm not kidding. I think we probably had at the time probably 10,000 t-shirts in stock, blank black t-shirts that we could print any message we wanted on. And we had a software called, I think, Fishbowl is what it was. And it could handle about 8,000 orders a day before it started getting wonky. And we started, and every day we saw that we were maxing out what our CRM could do in like a 5-day period. And we thought something's wrong with the pixels, something's wrong with something's wrong. And we were freaking out thinking this cannot be possible. We've sold out all of our t-shirts.
We all want that problem, right?
But you just don't think that something like that can be such a huge hotbed topic. But it absolutely was. And all those sales were legitimate. And it became something to where I want to say the first month of that one shirt design, I think because we tapered off media because we didn't have as much. We tapered off spend because we didn't have as much inventory. We had to get in thousands of shirts and start printing thousands of
Mhm.
shirts. And I want to say we probably did. I know it was 40 to 50,000 that first month, and we never one
Wow.
time looked back. And I know
Yeah.
that design still sells for that company today.
Yeah.
And that
Well, and
was
that just
years
speaks
ago.
to timing,
Yeah,
right? And seeing an opportunity and seeing the mood out there and saying, okay, what can I deliver? How can I deliver value?
absolutely.
Um, because people had, a feeling and expression they wanted, and you gave them a way to do that. So,
And that's the thing is
good for everybody.
there's something about wearing taking somebody so passionate about and wearing that on their chest too, that they're going into public wanting to know, they want the public to know how they feel. I mean, there's
Hmm.
no tapping deeper into an avatar than that. And I think probably I want to say we probably had 25, 30 different designs of the same type of feel there. And I've spent the last year rebuilding the entire facilities here so that we can now do the same thing with this company. But it took me about a year and a half to build it all up. So I think we could probably make 10,000 t-shirts a day now because tapping into that same thing. Because like that happened
Hmm.
6, 7, 8 years ago now, it none of that changes. It's all the same process, same cookies, same ingredients. So there's no
Yeah.
real reason to change the system.
Well, I know you're a master of using social media and email marketing to drive a lot of those sales.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think what are the key elements that make those kind of campaigns work
so
in your
there's
mind?
so there's a real there's a magic to it, but it's just kind of going down the same SOP. It's understanding. So once you've brought that lead in, you're not just saying, "Hey, here's your tracking number, thanks a lot." You're putting them into a welcome series, and you're saying, "Hey," and your copies, everything that they bought on that front end it was a direct response, an ad, whatever. If it pushes them through a funnel or an e-com page, it's the same type of marketing. It's a, hey, thank you so much for purchasing, thank you for staying engaged with what we're doing, thank you for fighting with Americans who think the same as you do. And then it's putting them in the right bucket on the back end of email, of course, segmenting and say, this is a buyer, this is somebody you're currently talking to. Don't ignore them. A lot of people look at email and say, well, we just kind of throw them all in a pile. That you can't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta put them and say, here's somebody who bought yesterday, and put them in a series that your copy is pushing. It's still keeping them engaged on the message that brought them in on it. It's trying to re-engage them in a series like that, and then we indoctrinate them pretty soon into a newsletter system to where they're getting content articles which relate to everything in our content sites, and that's also pushed on social. So say they got into a series, and in your series you're saying, don't miss out on anything that we're releasing, or don't miss out on
Mhm.
anything that's attacking our what we're trying to do. So please follow our socials, please check out tomorrow's newsletter. It's got XYZ in it. So you're constantly engaging them in every possible marketing method that touches them. And those newsletters will you'll obviously look on the back end and see if they're opening them, and if they are, um, if they're not, you can sometimes you'll, depending on the client and the structure, you'll hit them with the re-engagement series with news. Some people just like straight news content that you're sending them in a newsletter, so you just keep maintaining that. And um, some people are buyers, and they just want to buy. So especially in the first
Mhm.
14 days, sometimes there's a certain segment of customers that are going to buy a third to two-thirds of what you send them, and they just want to buy. Because once they get into a thing, that's why consumers like me buy so much from Amazon, is because you just get in like a trend, and you buy. So some clients are that. And if they're
Yeah.
buyers, keep them as buyers. Send them coupons. Send them everything you
Mhm.
can to get them to engage with your product. If a lot of them are just newsletter consumers, then that's just brand recognition. So Coca-Cola, they don't care about polar bears. They care about you still constantly re-engaging with their brand over and over and over again. And so that's all a newsletter is. It's saying, you cared about this last week. We know you still care about it. Here's what you're not thinking about. Here's maybe some news on it. Here's something that your brand is doing. Here's a reaching out effort that your brand is doing. Here's how you're, if you're talking about a church, and here's things that the church is doing. Here's brands that the church cares about. So you're reinstilling that message. You're re-engaging with them. And then when somebody's reading a lot of emails, the good thing about email is you read it anywhere. Everybody's got their lifestyles and their stuff. My stepfather wakes up every single day in retirement. He flips open a laptop. My mom finally made him get a new laptop because I think he was using the same one since I think he had the first laptop for a long time. And he goes through his mail. And he reads his newsletters and he goes to his sites that he goes to, and you'll have a lot of customers that do that. And that's his process. A lot of people are going to the restroom and reading their emails. A lot of people are doing all that. So you can't just, in the old days of just running a TV commercial and hoping that somebody watches it, that's just ludicrous. That is not how we have now trained our brains to not think like that anymore. If you're watching something on TV and something dings on your phone, can you imagine anything 25 years ago that would make you look away from a TV show that somebody's talking to? Now that ding on your phone and you were 100% focused towards the TV a minute ago, and now you will lose focus 100% of that by one ding on your phone. So if you're just running commercials and hoping and praying for the best, or running ads in the way that people used to, you might as well just be handing strangers $1 at this point.
I know how important that is in this sort of honoring of your customer, saying, I know why you're here. I'm going to give you more of it. And I'm going to give you something different perhaps than I'm giving your competition or your neighbor. I think that becomes an important function.
Yeah, it's a respect.
Yeah,
absolutely it is. And I like to say that I used to watch just as much political stuff, and especially you'd think being in the position I'm in, but I'm want to get away from so much of the negativity that I don't check all the traditional news sources I used to anymore. I just look at the stuff that I know isn't going to upset me too much, and look at the stuff that isn't going to go, that isn't just so over the top. So that's even more why email becomes so important. At least at some point, that person selected to read your message. So when you're still talking to them and they're understanding that I know who's talking to me. I know what this is. I know the tone this is going to be. I know the feel this is going to be, because they've been engaging with your stuff. They're more likely to open that, and instead of being a jaded consumer like I've become over the last few years.
Well, it's I know there's a lot to be in our world. Sometimes it feels like there's a lot to be negative about, but I love having conversations with people like you, Jeremy, doing exciting things, building great businesses. And we can learn a lot, I think, about key topics. For me, for sure, this concept of giving people what they want with email, repeating, maybe dividing it up between consumers. It's so simple, but such a valuable takeaway. And also just your obsession around the avatar of your customer and saying, we're here to deliver them what they want, not what we want. We're not here to sell them what we want. We're here to sell them what they want. I think those are great takeaways for people listening. So I really appreciate you joining us and sharing all this. I could have gone on and on for an hour, but we're going to hour more, but we'll give people a chance to get back to what they're doing in their real lives. So really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, it's a joy, and you can tell how much we love bantering back and forth, Jeremy. So I know this will continue for us. For those of you listening, thanks for tuning in. We want to invite you to join the Liberty Partnership community to learn more. You can go to libertyspenders.com. You can learn more about how we can help you engage with this audience. And you can also access our Liberty Access Multiplier AI tool there. Experience even a special AI version of Kurt and Kristen, if that doesn't scare you, that you can engage with. So check out libertyspenders.com. And again, thanks for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Until next